Esther 2. Esther made queen. Later, King Xerxes stopped being angry. Then he remembered Vashti and what he had done. He remembered his commands about her. Then the king's personal servants had a suggestion. They said, "Search for beautiful young virgins for the king. Let the king choose leaders in every province of his kingdom. Then let the leaders bring every beautiful young virgin to the capital city of Susa. These young women will be put with the group of the king's women. They will be under the care of Higai, the king's eunuch, who is in charge of the women. Then give beauty treatments to all of them. Then let the one who is pleasing to the king become the new queen in Vashti's place." The king liked this suggestion, so he accepted it. Now there was a Jew from the tribe of Benjamin named Mordecai. Mordecai was the son of Jair. Jair was the son of Shimei, and Shimei was the son of Kish. Mordecai was in the capital city, Susa. Mordecai had been carried into captivity from Jerusalem by King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon. He was with the group that was taken into captivity with King Jehoiachin of Judah. Jehoiachin. Sorry. Names are silly. Mordecai had a cousin named Hadassah. He didn't have a father or a mother, so Mordecai took care of her. Mordecai had adopted her as his own daughter when her father and mother died. Hadassah was also called Esther. She had a very pretty face and a good figure. When the king's command had been heard, many young women were brought to the capital city of Susa. They were put under the care of Higai. Esther was one of these women. She was taken to the king's palace and put into Higai's care. Higai was in charge of the king's women. He liked Esther. She became his favorite. So he quickly gave Esther beauty treatments and special food. He chose 7 slave women from the king's palace and gave them to Esther. Then he moved Esther and her 7 women servants into the best place where the king's women lived. Esther didn't tell anyone she was a Jew. She didn't tell anyone about her family background because Mordecai had told her not to. Every day Mordecai walked back and forth near the area where the king's women lived. He did this because he wanted to find out how Esther was and what was happening to her. Before a young woman could take her turn to go in before King Xerxes, she had to complete 12 months of beauty treatments, 6 months with oil of myrrh, and 6 months with perfumes and cosmetics. When her time came to go into the king, she could choose to wear or take whatever she wanted from the women's living area. In the evening, the young women would go to the king's palace, and in the morning she would return to another area where the king's women lived. Then she would be placed under the care of a man named Shaashgaz. He was the king's eunuch in charge of the slave women. She would not go back to the king again unless he was pleased with her. Then he would call her by name to come back to him. The time came for Esther to go to the king. She was the one Mordecai had adopted, the daughter of his uncle, Abihail. All she wanted to take with her was what Haggai, the king's officer in charge of the women, suggested. Everyone who saw Esther liked her. So Esther was taken to King Xerxes in the palace. This happened in the 10th month of Tebeth, in the 7th year of his rule. The king loved Esther more than any of the other young women, and she became his favorite. He approved of her more than any of the others. So King Xerxes put a crown on Esther's head and made her the new queen in place of Vashti. And the king gave a big party for Esther. It was all his important people and leaders. It was all for his important people and leaders. He announced a festival in all the provinces and set out gifts to people because he was a generous king. Mordecai learns about an evil plan. Mordecai was sitting next to the king's gate at the time the young women were gathered together the second time. Esther had still kept it a secret that she was a Jew. She had not told anyone about her family background. This is what Mordecai had told her to do. She still obeyed Mordecai, just as she had done when he was taking care of her. During the time Mordecai was sitting next to the king's gate, this happened. Bigthana and Teresh, two of the king's officers who guarded the doorway, became angry with the king. They began to make plans to kill King Xerxes. But Mordecai learned about these plans and told Queen Esther. Then she told the king. She also told him that Mordecai was the one who had learned about the evil plan. Then the report was checked out. It was learned that Mordecai's report was true. The two guards who had planned to kill the king were hanged on a post. All these things were written down in a book of the king's histories in front of the king.